Please be seated. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana, John Dramani Mahama, the Chief of Staff, Ministers of State, Presidential Advisors, Heads of State Institutions, Captains of Industry, welcome to this presidential dialogue with the private sector. My name is Bernard Avile. I will be your MC/ moderator for this engagement. I'd like to begin by inviting the Minister for Government Communications and Presidential Spokesperson, MP, the Honorable Felix Kwakye Ofosu, to do some brief introductions and set in context tonight's program. Please put your hands together for Felix Kwakye Ofosu.
Thank you very much, Bernard. Your Excellency, the Honorable Chief of Staff, Ministers of State, senior government officials present, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Let me formally welcome you on behalf of His Excellency the President to this important gathering, which is a platform created to offer opportunity for engagement between His Excellency and the private sector and business community of Ghana. Since January 2025, His Excellency the President and his government have been busy cobbling together various policies aimed at fostering a congenial business environment. Indeed, much of the heavy lifting has been done, and some of the results are beginning to show. Everybody in this room would attest to the truism that the business environment today is much better than it was before His Excellency assumed office. But it is one thing to sit in the hallowed walls of government and make policy. It is quite another to have a more visceral and candid assessment of the impact of those policies, in order that those policies can be fine-tuned and that they are better curated to meet the needs of the audience, which in this case are those within the business community. And so this forum has been put together as part of a series of engagements with important segments of Ghanaian society. After this engagement, because His Excellency has a deliberative and consultative approach to governance, he would also engage members of organized labor who form a chunk of the workforce of Ghana. After that, he will also meet members of civil society in order that his policies come under scrutiny and come out in ways that are more beneficial. But many reasons exist why this sort of governing is important. At the very least, it offers an opportunity for ideation and synthesis of various viewpoints, so that only the best policies can come out for the benefit of all. Again, it provides an important platform for feedback, so that His Excellency and his government are able to assess exactly what the impact of those policies have been and what could be done better in order to foster an even better business environment. I must indicate that it is not only people within segments of Ghanaian society that His Excellency will be engaging. This is part of an overarching objective to take governance to the people. So in addition to these engagements, His Excellency will be stepping out to meet the people of Ghana as well. They are, after all, the reason why he is in office. You may have noticed that at the presidency, we hold regular briefings through which various ministers of state and other officials engage with the Ghanaian public to tell them exactly what government is doing. But His Excellency wants to take it a step further by having regional accountability fora and district accountability fora, where he will lead a delegation of ministers who will be joined by regional ministers, district chief executives, and other office holders at various levels of government, so that he is able to account directly to the people. All of this is aimed at achieving one objective: to make his government better than he even intends it to be. It is my belief that the objectives set for this evening will be achieved by the time we are done. And His Excellency would encourage you to be as candid as possible in your assessment and engagement with him, so that overall we all leave this place much better informed about what policies he has for us and how those policies have impacted. So with those brief comments, I would welcome you once again and wish you a fruitful deliberation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Felix Kwachio-Fosu, Minister for Government Communications. We'd like to quickly acknowledge some of the key functionaries for tonight to support tonight's function. We have the Chief of Staff in the person of Honorable Julius Debra here with us. While we have all sector ministers here, we have two important ones for tonight's function. Minister for Finance, Kasiel Atufosin, MP. Thank you. Minister for Trade, Industry and Agribusiness, Honorable Elizabeth Ofusue-Jari, MP. And of course, Felix Kwachio-Fosu, the Minister for Government Communications. We also want to acknowledge all other ministers here with us. If they can just give us a wave so we acknowledge all of them. Thank you. We also have the President's advisors on the key thematic areas, including 24 economy, good governance. If you can just give us a wave, all the President's advisors. We also have the Governor of the Bank of Ghana in the person of Johnson Pandit Esiama. We have heads of government agencies, including GIPC, GEPA, and all the state agencies. Please give us a wave where you are sitting. Thank you. We have chief executives of state enterprises and government corporations. If you can also give us a wave where you are sat, we'll be happy to acknowledge you. Thank you very much for being here. Mr. President, we have 150 companies grouped into 14 categories. And for the want of time, we'll just mention the 6 subcategories. And when I mention your industry, you can just give us a wave so we know you are here. So under the rubric of heavy industry and construction materials, we have the steel and ceramics products companies. If they can give us a wave, steel and ceramics product companies. Thank you. We have the cement manufacturing companies. There are 6 in number. Cement companies, give us a wave. And still under the heavy industry, we have automobile assembly components and bodyworks. There are 7. The steel and ceramics organizations, the President, are 21. There are 21 in all. Thank you. Under the light manufacturing and consumer goods, we have textile and garments. And under that rubric, we have about 12 companies. Textile and garments, give us a wave. Thank you. Paper and paper products, we also have them here. They are about 7 in number. Give us a wave. Cosmetics, toiletries, diapers, and sanitary pads, they are 10 in all. Please give us a wave. And then we have plastics and recycling, also under the light manufacturing and consumer goods. That group, they are 6 in all. Please give us a wave. The third category is food, beverages, and agro-based manufacturing. Under that, we have food and beverages. There are 19 companies. 19 companies. Agro-processing, 14 companies. Give us a wave. It's a roll call, please. Poultry, poultry feed, and fish products, there are 3 organizations. The fourth broad category is chemicals, pharmaceuticals, and health-related manufacturing. Under that, we have pharmaceutical companies, and they are 15 in all. And then under agrochemicals, we have 5 in all. Agrochemicals. Last but not least, we have the category we call electrical, energy-linked, and cross-cutting. Under that, we have electrical cables. There are 3 organizations. And then we have 9 organizations categorized under broad. So that's about 12 in that group for the final 5. We also have 14 industry associations. I won't go through the list. AGI, FAGE, and all of those. Please give us a wave. Thank you very much for being part of this program. So without further ado, we'd like to, with respect, receive the host of the program, the President of the Republic, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, to bring to us his opening remarks. Please rise and let's receive him.
Thank you. Thank you. Kindly be seated. Thank you very much. Ministers of State, members of the Council of State, captains of industry, private sector leaders, business executives, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to what I believe will be a defining conversation in Ghana's industrial and economic transformation. In the run-up to the 2024 election, I made a firm promise that if Ghanaians entrusted me with their mandates, I would hold an annual dialogue with captains of industry and business to address the challenges hindering the growth of the private sector in Ghana. Promise made, promise kept. I've convened this presidential dialogue with the private sector because I hold a simple but firm conviction that Ghana's economic transformation is a joint enterprise. The government cannot achieve it alone, and equally the private sector cannot thrive without a government that listens, reforms, and creates an enabling environment for businesses to thrive. Tonight is about resetting that partnership between government and the private sector. And we must do this candidly, substantively, and with mutual accountability. I also wish to acknowledge the extensive sector engagements undertaken by my Minister for Trade, Agribusiness and Industry over the past year. Those consultations, from exporters, roundtables, to factory visits, and market engagements have grounded our policy direction in practical reality. Ghana's economy has emerged from a period of severe turbulence. We are beginning to see positive signals: relative stabilization of the currency, improved investor sentiment, strengthened business confidence, new private capital investments in manufacturing and processing. These outcomes reflect deliberate fiscal consolidation, value-added tax rationalization, removal of distortionary levies, and a determined effort to restore macroeconomic credibility. But let me be clear, stabilization is not equal to transformation. For over 5 decades, Ghana's manufacturing sector has contributed around 10% to GDP. Meanwhile, emerging Asian economies starting from a similar basis have achieved manufacturing share of 20% to 30% of GDP and thereby creating mass employment and export competitiveness. And so we need to change our trajectory. I've therefore set a national target. Manufacturing must contribute at least 15% of GDP by the year 2030. Supported by 500,000 new quality industrial jobs. This will require structural reform and not incremental adjustments. I take note of the Ghana Chamber of Mines' recent report that says that Ghana is losing competitively in investment to Benin, Cote d'Ivoire, and Nigeria. There are many areas we need to look at as outlined in the report. Areas like corporate taxation, electricity tariffs and stable power, duties on machinery and equipment, and several other factors. And so, across every subsector represented here tonight, one constraint dominates. That is the cost of energy and reliability of power. Industrial tariffs in Ghana remain uncompetitive relative to our regional peers. No industrial nation thrives under structurally high costs of power. This administration will accelerate energy sector debt restructuring, expand generation capacity, particularly in renewables, introduce differentiated off-peak industrial tariffs, improve transmission efficiency, and promote embedded generation in industrial enclaves. Energy reform is not optional. It is foundational to Ghana's industrial takeoff. The same applies to water supply for manufacturing. We must reform the water sector and include private sector participation in the supply of industrial water. While interest rates are falling sharply from the highs of about 38% a few years ago, industrialization cannot take off when interest rates remain around 18 to 20%, and lending tenors are quite short-term. We can resolve these challenges by establishing dedicated financing windows for manufacturing, partner with the Bank of Ghana and development finance institutions, develop special purpose vehicles for SME industrial expansion, expand credit guarantee schemes, and deepen long-term capital markets instruments. Access to affordable patient capital will be treated as a structural reform priority by this government. Smuggling under declaration, counterfeit goods, and rebagging of inferior products are not minor infractions. They constitute economic sabotage. To stem this tide and protect our fledgling manufacturing sector, we will intensify coordinated border enforcement, treat trade infractions as economic crimes, dismiss and prosecute public officers found culpable, deploy technology-driven customs surveillance solutions, and rigorously enforce product standards. This government is determined to protect Ghanaian enterprises so they can thrive and grow. Industrialization requires secure land tenure and protection of agricultural resources. In this regard, we will accelerate litigation-free industrial land banks, reform land tenure to support commercial contract farming, strengthen action against illegal mining and sand winning, expand irrigation systems, and invest in storage and cold chain infrastructure. Land reform is absolutely essential for our economic transformation. Sector-specific actions that we need to take. In textiles and garment industry, enforcement against counterfeit fabrics, tax exemptions on machinery and inputs, mandatory local procurement compliance, and with the agro-processing sector, commercial contract farming frameworks, expanded irrigation, post-harvest infrastructure for preservation and storage, fast-tracked agro-industrial land allocation. For pharmaceuticals, incentives for local API production, active ingredient production, stronger border enforcement against smuggled drugs, support for WHO GMP compliance. With the cement industry, enforcement of LI 2491, promotion of local clinker and other component production, resolution of port constraints in terms of discharge and logistical handling, and crackdown on rebagging of inferior cement. With iron and steel, border enforcement against smuggled steel, VAT compliance in scrap supply chains, tax exemption on plants and machinery, integrated value chain strategy, and ban on ferrous and non-ferrous scrap material. For food and beverages, stronger port enforcement, cold chain investments, and local raw material substitution. And for automotive industry, enforcement of age and quality standards, fiscal incentives for localization, affordable vehicle financing schemes, and regional market expansion under the African Continental Free Trade Area. The Cabinet will soon approve the National Agribusiness Policy to anchor our aim of value addition. Recently, wild fluctuations in the world cocoa market price have compelled us to take emergency steps to cushion our cocoa industry and protect our farmers. Measures have included a painful downward review of the domestic producer price. The current crisis in the cocoa sector compels us to urgently introduce reforms in the entire cocoa value chain. Reforms will include, amongst others, domestic funding for cocoa purchasing, expanded involvement of local licensed buying companies in cocoa purchasing, including the revamp of the produce buying company, expand value addition and processing of cocoa and other tree crops locally, automatic price mechanism that pays the farmer 70% of the international market price at prevailing exchange rates, drastic reduction of expenditure and elimination of waste in the cocoa board, and retooling of the cocoa processing company. We must move Ghana from a raw commodity exporter to a value-added producer. The same applies to the extractive industry. To achieve processing of all mineral ores locally within a 5-year time frame. At the center of our transformation agenda is a 24-hour economy policy. Factories operating one shift produce one shift's output. Factories operating 3 shifts maximize capital, infrastructure, and labor productivity. The 24-hour economy authority has now been established to coordinate nationwide implementation. I had the privilege of assenting to this bill, and it has been enacted into law. For manufacturers, this includes shift-based incentives, off-peak electricity tariffs, enhanced nighttime security, structured labor dialogue, tax exemptions on equipment for factory expansion, and other associated incentives. This is not mere reform, it is a productivity revolution. The African Continental Free Trade Area is the world's largest integrated market by the number of participating countries. But access alone does not guarantee competitiveness. Energy reform is an African Continental Free Trade Area strategy. Financing reform is an African Continental Free Trade Area strategy. Enforcement reform is an African Continental Free Trade Area strategy. We must work to make Ghana West Africa's production hub. Before I conclude, thank you. Thank you. Before I conclude, allow me to address a sector often seen as social but fundamentally economic, and that's the area of sports and recreation. Sports today influences global markets, tourism, media rights, youth employment, creative industry, and investment flows. In 2026, Ghana stands at the center of several global platforms. Our national football team, Black Stars, is preparing for its 5th FIFA World Cup appearance. Our women's soccer team, Black Queens, heads into continental competition with renewed credibility. We also prepare for the 2026 Commonwealth Games and the 2026 Summer Youth Olympics. These moments position Ghana before global audiences and investors in ways that few sectors can do. We've therefore established the Ghana Sports Fund, a transparent financing framework for grassroots development, school sports, athlete welfare, infrastructure modernization, and long-term talent pathways. No country achieves sporting excellence without deliberate funding systems. I invite corporate Ghana to view this not as charity, but as a partnership in national development. Government has created a framework. Let us build the systems. So tonight, private sector, I have you here, and all senior government officials, ministers, Bank of Ghana, GIPC, 24-hour authority, all of us are here together. I propose a covenant between us. Government must commit to maintain stable macroeconomic policy. The turbulence in macroeconomic policy affects your businesses. We must maintain regulatory clarity. Regulations must be clear and simple and not intended to obstruct private business. We must look at the whole structure of industrial financing and apply industrial financing reform. We must enforce fair trade, so fair trade enforcement. Government also commits to improving infrastructure, including the roads, utilities, power, water, so that the private sector and industry can expand and thrive. And then also government commits to regular consultation with the private sector to resolve the challenges and obstacles that prevent your businesses from growing. In return, I ask the private sector to invest and scale up domestic production, create additional Ghanaian jobs, prioritize local content, invest in skills development, maintain international standards for our products, and engage transparently in policy dialogue with government. Ladies and gentlemen, the Ghana we all seek will not be built by speeches. It will be built by factories operating at scale. It will be built by farms that are linked to processing plants. It will be built by laboratories that are producing pharmaceuticals. It will be built by industrial parks that are producing for Ghana and exporting to Africa and beyond. And so, today is a presidential dialogue with the private sector, but let us move from dialogue to delivery as we leave this place. Together, we will build an industrial Ghana that is competitive, resilient, and prosperous. May God bless our homeland Ghana and make our nation great and strong.
We thank His Excellency the President for his opening remarks. This is still the presidential dialogue with the private sector. Before we open the floor for the private sector, we would hear from two sector ministers. I'd like to first invite the Minister for Trade, Agribusiness and Industry, who is also the MP for Techima North, the Honorable Elizabeth Ofosue-Jari, to bring to us her presentation ahead of the engagement. Let's welcome her with a round of applause.
Debt sustainability and protect priority social spending, particularly safeguarding investment in education, health, and social spending. This is the outline for the end 2025 fiscal numbers. Your Excellency, last year you set for yourself a 2025 primary balance on commitment basis at 1.5%. The outturn was 2.6%. Better, far better than what you said for yourself. Mr. President, the overall balance on commitment basis was set at a deficit of 2.8%. We were able to achieve 1%, improving your own numbers. In fact, outperforming what we set for ourselves. The overall balance on cash basis, we set for ourselves a deficit of 3.8%, and the outturn is 3.1%. On primary basis, on cash basis, we set for ourselves 0.5%, and we were able to achieve 0.5%. Largely, I'll show you a slide on revenue performance. The non-oil tax revenue was projected to be 181.6 billion. We were able to achieve 179.2 billion. Largely, we were not able to achieve the target by 3.4 billion Ghana cedis. However, we were able to complement this shortfall with non-tax revenue, where we overly achieved our target and outperformed it. The target was 18.4 billion, and we achieved 24 billion. From the expenditure front, the total expenditure we target was 269.5 billion, but we actually achieved 238.5 billion. This means we were able to reduce expenditure by 11% as we said for ourselves. Right. Your Excellency, primary expenditure was 209.6 billion, and we were able to achieve 188.7 billion. Again, we were able to achieve our target and exceeded by 10%, only 10%. As a result of all of this that we were able to do for ourselves, we have successfully reduced Ghana's debt to GDP from 61.8% of GDP to 45.3% of GDP. So, Mr. President, I'm happy to inform you that, and to captains of industry, that Ghana's debt is now sustainable. For the first time in Ghana's history, there is a negative 11.9% rate of debt accumulation. Your Excellency, I take you to the exchange rate development. The Ghana cedi demonstrated exceptional resilience and strength in 2025, recording an annual appreciation against all major trading currencies. The cedi, according to data from the International Monetary Fund, emerged as the best performing currency in Africa in the year 2025. Mr. President, as at 31st December 2024, under the previous administration, the cedi depreciated against the US dollar by 19.2%, against the British pound by 17.8%, and against the euro by 13.7%. I'm happy to report that as at December 31st, 2025, the Ghana cedi appreciated against the US dollar by 40.7%, against the GBP by 30.9%, and against the euro by 24%. Mr. President, the trade account recorded a surplus of 13.7 billion cedis, supported by strong gold export earnings. And you could see from the graph that this year, the growth we are seeing from export alone was 31.7 billion United States dollars, export alone, as against import of $17.5 billion. The central bank has been able to build strong buffers. I'm again happy to report that the gross international reserves stood at 13.8 billion US dollars enough to cover 5.7 months of imports from a stock position. 5.7 months of import from a stock position of 8.98 billion United States dollars, which was 4 months of import cover at the end of December 2024. So, President, the outlook looks very good. Oftentimes, the business community is interested in the outlook, and government has set bold but achievable macroeconomic target for the 2026 fiscal year and the medium term. These targets reflect government determination to maintain the momentum of recovery, deepen stability, and translate growth into real improvement in the lives of our people. As a result, we set for ourselves overall GDP of 4.8% of GDP, non-oil GDP of 5%, inflation 8% plus or minus 2%, primary balance on commitment basis we set for ourselves 1.5% of GDP, overall balance on commitment basis we set for ourselves a deficit of 2.7% and gross international reserves of not less than 3 months of import cover. In conclusion, Mr. President, the real GDP growth strengthened with a provisional 6.1% year-on-year growth in the first 3 quarters of 2025, driven mainly by service and agriculture. Non-oil GDP growth was even higher at 7.5% in the first 3 quarters of 2025, compared to 5.8% in the same period of 2024. Inflation has fallen from 13 consecutive months, declining sharply by 20 percentage points from 23.8% at the end of December 2024 to 3.8% at the end of January 2026. Interest rates have fallen sharply, with 91 days Treasury bills rate dropping from 27.7 at the end of 2024 to 6.4 in February 2026, lowering government borrowing costs and freeing up capital for the private sector. The average commercial bank lending rate fell sharply from 30.25 in 2024 to 20.45 in 2025. With inflation currently at 3.8%, the downward trend is expected to continue. Your Excellency, yesterday someone informed me that a business person informed me that he's able to borrow now from bank at 13%, GRL minus 2. And I'm sure the governor will let it come down even better. Credit to the private sector expanded by 17.1 billion Ghana cedis in 2025 alone, with further growth expected in 2026. The cedi appreciated against the US dollar by 40.7%, 30.9% against the British pound, 24% against the euro by end 2025. Our external position has strengthened, with the current account surplus of 9.1 billion by end December 2025, up from 1.5 billion in 2024, and the difference is staggering, from 1.5 to 9.1 billion. Gross international reserve has reached 13.8 billion, enough to cover 5.7 months of import cover. The primary balance on commitment basis improved significantly to a surplus of 2.6% of GDP, exceeding our target of 1.5%. Public debt has reduced significantly by 82.1 billion cedis, from 726.7 billion, representing 61.8% of GDP in December 2024, to 641 billion, representing 45.3% of GDP in December 2025. The macroeconomic turnaround is broad-based and comprehensive. All sectors of the Ghanaian economy have witnessed some remarkable improvement. Most importantly, the size of Ghana's economy has crossed the 100 billion United States dollar landmark threshold. Your Excellency, Mr. President, you inherited an economy that was valued less than $80 billion. But most importantly today, the size of Ghana's economy has crossed the 100 billion United States dollar landmark threshold. The size of Ghana's economy is projected to reach 140 billion United States dollars by end 2025, making it the 7th largest economy in Africa in 2025. The private sector can leverage on this expansion to support the economic transformation agenda of President Mahama. President Mahama's administration remains committed to sustaining these gains to create jobs and to set the economy on a path of strong growth and economic transformation. Your Excellency, the private sector is the biggest beneficiary of the economic reset under your administration. I want to use this opportunity to also urge the private sector that it's time to give something back to the Ghanaian citizen. Please reduce your prices to reflect the reality. And let us together make our country great and strong. Thank you very much.
Wow. I hope those applause were spontaneous in joy. Let's put our hands one more time for Atu Forsen. You know, the headmasters who don't shout are the ones who are the most stern. And Atu Forsen is like that. So we thank you for doing 2 in 1. He did the mini budget and also gave a lot of apport for the President, State of the Nation later in the week. So thank you very much for that. So looking at time, we have 1 hour and 10 minutes. We have 150 companies. We have grouped you into 4 broad categories, and then of course the industry associations are the 5th. So we want to propose this structure. First round, we'll take 3 questions, and in that round, this is for the heavy industry and construction material group, particularly because of course B5 Plus, your story was the biggest this weekend, graphic front page. So if you are here, we'll give you the first chance to say thank you, not to ask a question. Because there are 21 steel and ceramic products companies, 7 cement companies, and 7 automobile companies. So in that group, we are given 3 questions or 3 comments or 3 responses. We have made it very open. This is not being streamed. We've streamed up till the presentations. So this is just for this room. And so feel free to be candid. Everything that is said here stays here. We have a group from EY who are rapporteuring so that we don't miss out on any point made, and they'll present a report at the end to His Excellency. So because there are so many of us, we have mics in front of you. I'll call the first group. You raise your hand, you mention your name, and you go straight to your point. Please make sure you press the green light knob on your mic. You mention your name for records purposes, and you go straight to your question. So I'd like to open the floor by saying, if there's any question from the steel and ceramics products group, the cement group, or the automobile group, we'll take 3. So, sir, you'll be the first person to go. You mentioned